Hey everyone, welcome back to ML Works. In this video, we'll be talking about a very interesting tool called as browser use, which will help you to interact with your browser with the help of an LLM. So the idea is to ensure that whatever you say in a prompt in an LLM, so the browser will take actions accordingly. So that's the whole idea. So the kind of applications that you can build is kind of infinite because the browser has access to literally everything. Okay, you can go to any website, scrap any data, you can perform any actions, you can do literally everything, okay, with the help of our browser. So the applications are like huge. It's up to the person who is using this tool that can leverage it. So with that, what I'll do is I'll get started with the setup. Okay, what you have to do is first create a virtual environment with the help of UV and then environment, okay, and then install Python 3.11 and above, okay, because browser use requires you to install Python 3.11 and above. Once you have installed Python 3.11 and created the virtual environment, then you activate the environment and then check the Python version and then install the browser use package and then also install Playwright. Playwright is the way you automate the browser automation tool, so you have to install that as well. With that, you will be done with the setup for using browser use. So next step is to understand the script, which I'll be showcasing you today in this video. So the task is, what we'll do is, with the help of browser use, we'll be accessing a Google Sheet and we'll understand the table and perform certain calculation. So the points that you have to understand here is you will be giving the URL for the sheet, and since it is a Google Sheet URL, you should be logged in. So those information, okay, you have to manage somehow in the prompt, and then once you are able to access the Google Sheet, you have to perform the action on the Google Sheet, like identifying the column on which you want to perform the calculation or addition of certain columns, certain column values. So that has to be understood, and all this will go into nothing but the prompt. Okay, we have to understand that part. So let me go back to the script here. So here what we do is first we import the packages, which are very basic steps. So from the browser use, we'll import key modules like agent. This is nothing but your interaction with LLM to browser. And then you will be importing browser profile. This could be if you log into browser, okay, you will see there will be a browser profile. If you are into log into Chrome, you will see right in the right hand side at the top, there will be browser profile for each person who has logged in into Gmail. So that is browser profile, and the session, right, the instance is called as browser session. And then what we do is we import the package for Gemini model. So for that, we just from the LangChain support for Google Gen AI, we import that, and then basic import of other packages which are not very important or easy to understand for us. Okay, so we can skip this part. And next is we load the env file. By that I mean that we import this file here into our runtime. So what it will contain is, it will contain the API key for Gemini model. It will contain the login credentials that I will need to use the Google Sheet. Okay, so those details are present in the environment file. Now coming to the configuration part. So here we have our configuration. So we create a data class and it's called Google Sheet config. And it will take in few parameters, which is Chrome path. This is an executable path. If you are trying to run a browser from your terminal, okay, you have to give this path to open a browser. Okay, and then headless is nothing but when the action is happening with the browser, do you want it to be visible to you or not? So if you keep it false, then you will be able to view the browser. All the actions will be visible to you. And then the model that I'm going to use, which is Gemini 2.0 Flash Exp, and then base URL, which is my Google Sheet. So let me go to the Google Sheet just to give you some idea, right? This is the Google Sheet, and you have two columns, expenses and cost. So the idea would be to go to this column and add all these and get the result. So that is a very simple task, but you have to understand this is just a basic sample. Okay, so things that you can do with this specific tool is kind of wide range of applications are present. So it's up to you how you use it. So yeah, this is the base URL for the sheet, and then I pass the parameters. Okay, this is the configuration for the Chrome path. I'm giving this path because in Linux this is where Chrome is stored, and I'm sending the headless is equal to false. Now I'm creating the function called create Google Sheet agent, and it takes in the Google Sheet config and it will return the agent for me. So here what we do is we use the specific function or whatever the module, right, for Gemini, okay, chat model. We take that and pass our model name first. Temperature is the parameter for the LLM, and this is also the parameter for the LLM, that is the max output token that you have to get, which is 1000. And then you take in the API key from what your env file, and you create the LLM object. This is done. Now what you do is browser profile. Now I have my browser running already. So what I do is I just give that path here. This is the path for the browser session, and this is the user data directory. Okay, so all these details that we see, right? Okay, just to show you. So this is my Chrome. If you see here, right? This is my Gmail account. Okay, or the profile, Google profile or Google account detail. Okay, so this all things are getting stored in certain places inside the browser. Inside the browser, I mean in your system. So it is stored somewhere, and it is stored in Linux here. Okay. So we want to make use of it here. And then you have user data directory. Again, this is also stored here. So we'll make use of that. And headless is nothing but the false config that we have set. Executable path is something we have set here. And the allowed domains, we want to access only sheets and doc. Okay. We are more specific to sheets. Sheets.google.com is what we are looking for. So why we are doing this is because we don't want the LLM to go to some other website and share your details or something, right? You don't want to do that. So you want to restrict that into a certain confined environment. So we pass this allowed domains. Now once the profile is created, we pass that into browser session, and this is the browser session object. Now we are returning the agent because it is expecting an agent. The function is returning an agent. So we are creating an agent at the end. So here we are saying our prompt, okay, what it has to do. And we are sending our LLM sensitive data, which is my mail ID and password, and then enable memory, false, and browser session, which we have initialized here. So I wanted to show, okay, first let me talk about the task here. So as I said earlier, okay, I want to navigate to the Google Sheet and calculate the total expense from the cost column by adding all the values from the cost column. So here are the specific steps. It has to go to the config.base URL, which is my sheet URL. Okay, this is the base URL. If you are prompted, right? So if I'm not logged in, okay, it might ask you to log into the Gmail account. Then I have to pass my Gmail ID and then password. Okay, then use the Gmail ID and password provided the sensitive data to log in. This will taken care. This will pass it actually. This step will happen automatically once you give this detail here, right? Somewhere I have mentioned here, right? Somewhere, yeah, this is where sensitive data. So it will be taking these details from here. And once, if you know about how Google handles the authentication, once you have given the password, it will ask for a two-step verification where it will send a code to your phone or something, right? So that will happen. So what I have given that is, if there is a two-step verification is enabled, wait for verification code to be entered manually. So this step will be taken care by me if I want to manually do it. Okay, so that is one step. Next is wait for the Google Sheet to load completely, because since we are interacting with the browser, what will happen is the browser will keep hitting buttons, okay, somewhere on the browser. So what we want to ensure is the LLM to ensure that if once the page is loaded completely, then only do certain actions. So that is the fifth step. And then there is see the Excel file with the column name and calculate the total expense by adding all the values under the column cost and return the total expense. So this is the final output. Now there are some important note that we have to mention as well, which is wait for each element, which I already said here, right? Load completely. It has to load the whole page and then before interacting. And the thing is, certain times what happens, right? The Gemini model, okay, if you don't prompt it well, so there is column, if you see here in the browser, in this specific column, you will see there is only B2 to B4. Okay, so what the LLM will think is there might be some value present here somewhere. So what it will do is it will iterate through all these columns as well. So to avoid that and making all the unnecessary calls to see all these cells, different cells, okay, what we can do is we can just mention in the prompt itself, if a cell in cost is empty, then you can assume all the cells below it are empty. So do not iterate through each cell. This is one of the important steps, because if it is not set, what will happen is it will keep iterating through each cell, and there are millions of cells that are present inside the sheet. So it is quite important. And then we also mention it to the LLM model, do not modify the sheet in any way and do not click any button that might change the view or add new rows. So this is kind of a brief prompt that we send it to LLM, which is Gemini model. And the important part is this one, okay, whenever you're sending an credentials, kind of a data, confidential information, it is better to send it like this in a dictionary format. This is only visible to LLM. This won't be visible to LLM. This is how this has been set up in browser use. And if I just go here in the preview readme document, just wanted to talk about certain things, right? So Chrome path is what I said, right? This is the Linux executable, Chrome executable path. Headless is what you see the browser, and action execution you won't see if it is true. The base URL, which is the sheet URL, model is the LLM Gemini model. Max completion token as 1000, max token is capped at 1000 tokens. Browser profile is nothing but it is a static config template for browser session like dimension, profile details, browser executable, and user data directory, which I explained earlier. Allowed domain is again constrains the website to search. And enable memory, this is important. So there will be multiple calls will happen with the LLM, and you want to keep store of that information of all those calls. So what you do is you can enable memory to summarize what has been done. Okay, the agent conversation at regular interval, you can summarize that and use that as a context. But if you don't do that, then the whole prompt will be very big in the next iterative LLM calls. So you can enable memory for that. Now coming to the important point, okay, this is where you have to, this is how you have to run the agent here. So you have async function, and which will be calculate expense, you pass the agent, and this is agent.run max steps. So how many times you want to make the LLM call, which is around 100 calls. And then agent.history, this is where you manage the history, okay, the whole LLM call that is happening with the browser. So you create an history of that, and then some exception. And here we have another function called as async def main, and this is calling this specific function create Google Sheet agent, and it takes in the config, and then we are running the agent here, and then we have the call to the main function. So this is what the whole detail is. So these functions are what will be called asynchronously. Simultaneously these calls will be made. So let us get started with running this specific program. Okay, let me just give it Python. So Google login. So you will see a browser getting loaded. Yep. So this is the logo for browser use, okay, that we are seeing, and you will see it is getting loaded. The thing, right, it did not ask for the specific credentials, because it has stored the information of profile information. It has loaded it. Okay, so it has done that. Okay, there is something happening in the backend which will be understanding here. Okay, let me go here. So I think it is trying to read other cells as well, even though this has worked earlier. Okay, let me stop it for now. Okay, so yeah, So here if you see what has happened is, let me pull it up. So this is what the steps are, okay, and the local browser was launched, and then we have, so initially it did not have anything, okay, so it has to, first step is to navigate to the Google Suite URL. That is the next goal, okay, and then if you see here, what is the next goal here? Again, the memory. I have navigated to the next Google. I have navigated to the Google Sheet URL and read the contents of the cells B2 to B4 to get the cost values. So ran one actions in 10.67 seconds, and then okay. So here it is mentioning I have successfully read the contents of cells B2 to B4. I have navigated to Google Sheet, read the contents, okay, and then read the contents of cell B5 to check if there are more values in the cost volumes. So this is again going back to B5, which I said, right, this is could be happening with what your LLM also. But if you see here in certain places, right, if you see here, you will notice, so I have navigated to the Google Sheet URL, read the contents of B2 to B5, and this is the value for this one, B5 is empty. Read the contents of the cell B6 to check if there are more values in the cost column. So this specific statement, it has not understood, okay, it has not understood this one. Okay, so might be we have to modify it in such a way that it ensures that it is not going through the each cell again, because if you see here again, it is going to B5, B6, B7 are empty, and then it is reading for B8. Okay, so what I'll do is, so let me capitalize these things. If a cell is if a cell in the sheet under column cost is empty, then you can assume the rest of the columns, rest of the cells below are also empty. So do not iterate through each cell. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll move this one to the top, and I will keep it here, all these things. Okay. Okay, let me run this one again. Let us see if we are able to achieve what we are intending to do. Okay, so let me run this one again, Google login. So yep, it has started, and let us see. Okay, so it has failed. Okay, there is a network issue probably. Okay, please check your API key and network connection. Okay, yeah, so it started now. Okay, that was a temporary connection issue maybe. So let us see, let's wait. Okay, it went to the Excel sheet, and then it is coming to the B5. Okay, want to see if it is going somewhere else now. Okay, B4, it has cost value which corresponds to the cost value. Then it has, it has finally done it actually. So if you see here, after third step, right, this is the third step. Okay, I have read the values from the cell B2 to B4. Now I need to calculate the total expense. Calculate the total expense, which is the next goal. And that total expense calculated by adding the values in the cost column B2 to B4 is 50 plus 300 plus 100 is equal to 450. Okay, so this has done the task as expected. So the only point, right, which I want to ensure is the prompt, how we are setting it up. Because the same prompt, okay, when I kept it here, right, third point, okay, it failed to understand, or it lost the information somehow. So this is how you can modify the prompt and get the task done. So the final result, okay, we got 450. What you will see is it is be getting stored somewhere here. If you are just storing it somewhere, right, agent.run in some place to a some variable, you will get stored there. So you can pick it up from how you pick it up from responses, right? Just like that, you can take it up. Okay, so with this, we are done with the a simple task of calculating your cost from an Excel sheet with the help of an LLM. Okay, so I have also tried out approach where I am able to post my Twitter, right on Twitter account, how you can post the content. So that is one way of utilizing this LLM. Okay, so with that I'll be concluding this video. I hope you have understood how to use browser use with LLM. Okay, so with that, thank you for watching.